There was once a little bird named Henry. Henry lived on a dairy farm with several other animals, all of whom he got along with quite well. The farmer's wife loved the birds and would sprinkle lots of chicken feed and dry broadcress throughout the barnyard for them to eat. There were also nearby trees that would drop seeds, especially in the autumn. Needless to say, the birds were very well fed. Perhaps too well fed. One day, when the birds were having their lunchtime feed, Henry began to feel a pain, as if there was something squirming deep inside of him. The pain did not go away. In fact, it lasted all through the following day. Henry had a very bad tummy ache, and he didn't know why. The next morning, as the birds were playing in the yard, someone squawked,
"Hey, Henry, you got some green thing coming out of your butt."
You do,
continued another. All of the other birds and farm animals gathered round to look, and indeed, coming out of Henry's bottom was a tiny green sprout. It seemed that deep inside of Henry's stomach, something had gone wrong with his digestive system, and there was one seed that Henry had eaten that his body did not break down.
1, 2, 3. Henry has a weed growing out of his butt. Henry has a weed growing out of his butt.
Chanted several of the birds.
Henry, he's got the flu with a weed in his butt. How's he gonna poo?
Laughed another. Henry did not feel very well, physically or emotionally. Henry tried pulling the sprout out, but it caused him far too much pain. That night, feeling alone, Henry decided to make his own nest in the barn, where the cows slept. As he settled in, a cow named Speckles, who was very looked up to by all of the other farm animals, saw Henry and came over for a chat.
"If you'll kindly just let me sleep in here tonight. The other birds have been teasing me quite a bit today,"
said Henry.
"Oh, now, Henry, I saw the other birds teasing you, and you certainly don't have to worry about that happening in here. But if you don't mind my asking, would you say that I have insecurities?" "You, Speckles? Why, no. You're one of the most admired animals on the whole farm." "Well, let me tell you a little story. All of these tiny brown spots that cover my body, they aren't normal for a cow. Most cows that you see on farms have big patches of color, not little specks all over like me. This made it rough for me in the barnyard when I was a calf. The other cows used to tease me. They said I looked like I'd been splattered by mud and that my mother should give me a better bath. I cried and was utterly mortified." "Get it? Utterly?" That's when my mother told me something that turned everything around. She told me that it's not about the way my spots look, it's how I wear them. I could either drag my nose in the grass or hold it up to the sky. It was up to me. Now my mother, I knew she was smart, so even though I wasn't quite sure it would work, I decided to give her method a try. From then on, I began to listen to all of the comments about my speckles as compliments instead of insults. I smiled at the meanest of the meanies, and let me tell you, those cows didn't know what to do with themselves. They couldn't tease me any longer because it just wasn't fun. Soon enough, they simply gave up on teasing me, and I became admired for my unique look. Don't I look fabulous? As a matter of fact, you do. I became so identified by my speckles that it even became my nickname.
Henry thought hard about what Speckles had said. It seemed rather absurd, but nonetheless, The next day he woke up, did his best to ignore his tummy ache, and went out into the barnyard.
Hiding out Henry, caught in a rut. He's got a leafy green weed in his butt.
So I do. How kind of you to notice,
Responded Henry.
Did you hear Henry? He likes having a weed in his butt.
Well, of course, why wouldn't I? It's quite unique, don't you think? I hope it flowers soon.
Well, this left all of the other little birds dumbfounded. Henry did seem different, and in a rather admirable way. In a frenzy, all of the birds went to Henry's favorite feeding circle, hoping to munch their own magic sprouting seed. Big birds asked little birds to find seeds too small for them to see. Birds that couldn't fly had birds that could fetch seeds from the tops of the trees. Many birds began to rub fertilizer on their butts in hope that they could speed up their into the new fashion. And several birds simply gave up and plucked their own weed, attached it to their behind, and wore it around, pretending it was real. The barnyard had never seen anything like it. Everyone wanted to be exactly like the bird they had so cruelly teased just days earlier. Then one morning, Henry awoke to do his morning duty, and out popped the sprout. Nobody acknowledged the fact that Henry no longer had his sprout, because none of the other birds had been able to successfully grow their own. Instead, everything just went quietly and slightly embarrassingly back to normal. And Henry no longer had a tummy ache.